I think we're live. Working here. All right, we're live. Hello. Have Mike join me here in a second. For anyone watching here, this is our new Instagram live version of Ask Wildman. My name is Miles Bassett with Wildman Web Solutions. We are a small digital agency based here in Lawrence, Kansas. And we're here to answer your questions. So this is an open Q&A. If you have any questions on anything here, you want us to talk about a particular technology, an update that's happened, if you want to know how to get your business online, set up a new website, or how to set up a new social media account for your business, or anything like that, please throw your questions in the comments below. We'll try to get to them as soon as we can. I say we because I have my friend Mike Hanna joining me here. Hello, Mike.
Good afternoon, Miles. How the heck are we doing?
It's
Merry
officially
Christmas, I guess.
afternoon. I'm still working on my coffee, so
Oh, you're
yeah.
gonna have
Merry
coffee
Christmas and a Happy
morning,
New
noon,
Year.
and night. Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you. Yeah, Merry
Yeah.
Christmas.
So I think I was just doing the intro from the top here. So anyone watching, this is an open Q&A. I'm sort of the technology side of the house here at Wildman Web Solutions. Mike here is our marketing director. So if you have any questions about sales or marketing, he's your guy there. But we're going to be doing a kind of special show today, and something that a lot of people are doing, and that's just a kind of year in review. We are here at the end of 2021. It was a big year for a lot of things, especially in the digital world. So we just wanted to talk about a couple of the biggest trends, biggest changes that we saw here as we watched this year come to a close. Mike, does that sound like a plan to you?
Hey, let's have some fun and get it done.
All right, but in the meantime, if you have anything that you want to ask, please throw your questions in the comments. We're watching those live, and we'll answer them here live on the live stream as we see them come up. Or if you have any comments or anything on what we're talking about, or your own additions, what was the biggest thing that you saw in the digital business world in 2021? Throw those in the comments, and we'll discuss. So I've got my list over here, Mike. I'm sure you've got yours, but I'll start with one of the I think probably one of the obvious ones on our side of things. We've talked about it several times over the course of the last year when it comes to digital marketing and trying to give tips out there and help people out. And that is just the advent and the rise in popularity of AI and programmatic digital. So all of the tools out there, whether you call it AI or machine learning or just a smart tool or something like that, our technology is getting smarter all the time. And it is augmenting our ability to run our business online, to do ads, to communicate with our customers, to get in front of new customers, or even, we're not talking about sales, into customer support or engaging with our customers farther down the funnel. It's becoming less of a nice to have and more of a must have at this point. I think you've got to automate and augment your sales funnel somewhere along the line in order to really compete. That can be anything from automatic email marketing, where the emails are personalized and structured exactly right and tailored to the person you're trying to deliver it to, into text message marketing, kind of a similar idea there. We've talked several times about chat bots, putting on a bot on your social media account or on your website to help facilitate customer engagement or FAQs or even basic shopping trends. All over the place, you're just seeing technology getting smarter and allowing us to do things better. I said programmatic digital, so like the automated ad buying on the on Google Ads that's happening now. It's automatically bidding instead of having humans in there doing it manually, allowing them to be very nimble, very quick, and get the best deals out there. So just little things like that when it comes to automation or AI, I think has been one of the biggest developments and one of the most major changes that we've seen in the digital marketing world in 2021. Mike, does that one make your list?
Yeah, I had it on the list, Miles. Yeah, and we we went into a deep dive into this topic maybe like 2 or 3 weeks ago. So probably don't need to go that deep again. But yeah, overall automation, and you gave some great examples, has been a huge advancement. And of course, we're not really talking about robots, so to speak, although that has been a major advancement as well throughout the business world. But specifically like what you're talking about in terms of just automating your sales process, your marketing process, but also internally, there's been a lot of automation that is out there now just to make teams work better in this kind of digital world, or some people are in a hybrid office environment where not the whole team is maybe not in the office every day. And so, there's all kinds of tools that are out there now that people maybe weren't using a couple years ago that are just really streamlining things and making the process of their business day to day be more efficient. And so this is really important, because if you're not taking advantage of this and your competition is, well, obviously they're going to, at some point can be able to outpace you in terms of productivity and what they're able to accomplish with the same amount of people. And that's the good news, in my mind, for us small businesses, is that a lot of this automation is leveling the playing field where we can do more with less, and we can compete with people who have, tons of, manpower and locations and things like that are traditionally extremely expensive. You need a lot of overhead, you need a lot of revenue in order to grow that size as a company. Well, now smaller companies that don't have those kind of physical infrastructures or labor, they can compete with some of these automation tools that are coming down the pipeline. So that I think
you said that this is a new thing this last couple of years, because a lot of these tools a few years ago, honestly, they sucked. We've been looking at several tools. You may have seen advertisements for them. They're starting to become very popular. These writing assistants that helps you to write copy or to make your copy better or something, where it's feeding it through this AI engine to either improve text or improve copy, or actually write copy for you. You can just put in the bullet points and it'll spit out a social media post or a blog article or something. And a few years ago, I would have told you to steer clear from it. They are just they're not good. They were not helpful. It was to the point where you were putting in more work than you were getting anything out, and it just wasn't worth it. But now stuff's getting pretty good. That tool is kind of an extreme, where you're having a robot actually write copy for you. I think it's probably used best alongside an actual human copywriter rather than just as a standalone product. But if you're using it properly and you're using it to empower an already good writer to do more, then we can start putting out some really great stuff, and one good writer can now do the work of an entire team. And I think it is really cool for us smaller businesses, and allows us to stand up to those big players out there.
Yeah, but another quick example would be something super simple, just to really take it out of the realm of robotics or anything technical, are just auto schedulers. Like something like a Calendly, or one of those products out there. I was talking with a client about this the other day, actually, that they're having some trouble getting all the calls answered, and things like that with the way that they have their business set up right now. And he was really laboring over the decision of, how do I fix this problem? Who do I take in my organization that is already doing something super important and super valuable to do this, and have to split their time and their attention between that? And the answer was, you don't have to. Let's automate it. Let's make this something seamless that can go directly to you, or whoever is handling the leads, and we don't need a middle person in there, so to speak. So just little things like that, but they can make a really big difference when you're talking about a relatively small organization of 10 employees or so.
Anything that you can systematize like that, booking online, ordering online, just knocking out a couple of FAQs. I know we've talked to a couple of clients before where their phone lines are tied up all day, but 90% of their calls are people asking the same thing over and over and over and over again. They're having the same conversation with everyone. Sometimes that's just explaining a product or service, or talking about their company, or just trying to book something, trying to schedule something. But all of those kinds of things are perfect candidates for some form of automation. And if you can knock out any of that, then you're going to end up saving yourself time, saving yourself a little bit of sanity, and like we said, just being a stronger competitor in the field out there. That could be being competitive with, more alike businesses, other small businesses in the area, other people in your industry, or actually becoming more competitive with bigger companies and bigger players out there in your field.
Yeah.
So that was the first one of mine here, is just AI, programmatic digital, this kind of automation play that we've seen. Not that it wasn't a thing before 2021, but I feel like we've really gotten the full swing of it, and there's enough really good tools out there that have made these kinds of products and strategies pretty accessible for businesses of any size, and that wasn't the case before. And now, like I said at the top here, I think it's becoming less of a nice to have and more of something you have to have somewhere along the line in order to, in order to really compete in the modern landscape. But don't want to belabor that too much. I've got a couple of other points, and I'm sure that you do as well. Again, we're doing 2021 year in review for digital marketing trends, the biggest things we've seen happen over the last year, and where we think they're going. So if you have any points on that, you've got any suggestions or anything, you got any questions on the things we're talking about, please throw that in the comments below. You can see a couple of people joining and watching. Hello. But yeah, please contribute here. There's no reason this has to be a one-way street. So if you have any thoughts or questions, please comment. We'll watch that. Mike, I'll toss it over to you for the next point. What do you think happened in 2021?
Yeah, so I guess kind of along those same lines, the next big trend, I guess I would say, something that we've certainly been seeing develop for a number of years, but I think really came to a head in 2021, and that was m-commerce or mobile commerce. Basically selling through the phone as the primary channel, and I guess in tandem with that, I'll throw out there this marketing buzzword. Maybe we could define a little bit, but Omni Channel. You maybe hear that a lot.
Yeah.
If you're talking to marketers or reading marketing trades and stuff like that, it's basically the idea that you need to be in more than one place, and you need to be communicating with your audience in more than one place. And this is something that has certainly rapidly advanced in the last 12 months. Let's think about it for a minute, the big picture. Not that long ago, not so distant future, people would find out about your company through your advertising channels, and they would go to your store and they would buy your products or services. Then, maybe they went to your website as well. And then maybe they went to your mobile app as well. And now, who knows? Maybe they're on Snapchat. Maybe they're on Instagram like we are today. Maybe they are on Facebook. Maybe they are in a text messaging platform. Maybe they're in an email. In all of these places, people expect to be able to buy stuff through their phone. And that is something, that is certainly revolutionary in the small business world, because a lot of us were behind the tech curve before the pandemic hit, and we haven't caught up. And so, that to me, there's a lot of opportunity with this trend and this change, but it's also a little bit of a dangerous place that a lot of small businesses find themselves in, because again, if your larger competitor is cutting the friction between themselves and the sale, they're going to win. We talk about eliminating the hoops all the time that people have to jump through to give you money, and this is a great example of that. If people want it now, they want it fast, and so you have to make that at least available, and you have to be able to talk to them on different channels. But really, being mobile first is something we've been talking about for a long time. But like I said, it's not just about being seen now; it's about actually making sales in a mobile first environment, which we had not seen on this level until this year. I think we talked about it a couple weeks ago at the Black Friday numbers, but it was the first time that the vast majority of sales for Black Friday and Cyber Monday and Small Business Saturday came not only online, but through a mobile device. Certainly the pandemic, shifted a lot of people to being online with their shopping. But if you think about it, mobile actually took a step back, like in the height of the pandemic, and Q2, Q3 of 2020, because people were actually at their home, and so desktop searches, desktop purchases, desktop traffic all went actually up and reversed that trend that had been accelerating. And then when things started to open up, it went right back, and that's why we saw the huge jump on the mobile side this year. Hopefully we're not shutting back down again, and we're going to continue that trend for 2022. We'll get to, I guess, our predictions for next year on next week's show. But so that was certainly one out there, Miles, and just this idea too of breaking in new audience and new channels, I think is something that a lot of small businesses, whether they felt like they were forced to do it or they wanted to do it, they took that leap in 2021 because they realized that they couldn't just have all their eggs in one basket anymore. The social media landscape, the communications landscape in general is so much more complicated than it was 3 to 5 years ago, where, hey, you just need a really good Facebook page. That's where everybody is. I saw this stat, Miles, the other day. Guess what is the most visited website in the world right now, or for 2021?
I'd have to say like Google.com.
That would be a great guess. And for like the last 15 years, maybe plus, you would have been right. This year, though, TikTok actually overtook Google.
No.
Now, I think that they are counting app visits as website visits as well, But yes, TikTok is now not only the number one social media platform, but the number one most visited website in the world. It's ahead of Amazon. It's ahead of all Apple, all the ones you would think of.
I don't know if that's impressive,
including
or just
Google,
sad.
including Facebook. But to my point, a couple years ago when we were telling people to come up with a TikTok strategy, a lot of people said we were crazy, because they were like, "What? That's what my kid does," And so I guess that's what I'm trying to say, is that the landscape has shifted so much, so fast, that weird thing that your kid was doing dances on just 18, 24 months ago is now literally the best place to get attention in the whole world. For your small business.
There's 100 different ways that you can now get out there and talk to people, talk to prospective clients, and maybe new people, maybe existing clients. There's a ton of different ways that you can get your message out there and you can get in front of people.
Right.
I'll throw in a word of caution, and then one of my points that I think ties perfectly into this. And that is, since there are so many different ways you can get out there, so many ways you can communicate with people, and so effectively, there's so many tools out there. I think especially for the small businesses that maybe don't have an entire marketing department, or even necessarily a single person allocated to marketing and communication, that we can spread ourselves a little thin. Because we get kind of that shiny object syndrome. You see the new platform pop up and you got to get on that, and you end up being on 100 different tools, but not really doing any of them well. So I'll just, while it is very important to get out there, and it can actually be a really easy way to reach new people, is just expose yourself to a new platform that's inherently going to have a slightly different user base. Be a little bit careful and be a little bit conservative with that, and make sure that you're still putting out something good. I don't want to completely spin over to quantity over quality here. Make sure that any strategy you have out there, one, actually has a strategy, and then two, is allowing you to do something well, and not just jumping on something because it's there.
Yeah, 100%.
And that totally ties into one of the points I was going to make, and so I'll kind of add that into the mix and then toss it back to you.
Okay.
But one of the points on my list was just new social. New social platforms. You're seeing TikTok has moved out of the kind of infancy new social media platform into totally mainstream major social network. You've got things like Rumble is now an actual legitimate competitor to YouTube is now out there. All these new social media channels and the existing ones have totally shifted. You've got Facebook going into virtual reality, but even before that, it has a marketplace. It has jobs on there. It has everything that you can imagine on Facebook. We now even have marketing tools in WhatsApp. That's the newest thing in digital marketing, is actually doing marketing through WhatsApp. So even the existing social platforms have shifted and started to become more complicated, more robust tools that, if used properly, can be very powerful tools for small business.
Yeah, and I'm really glad you brought both of those points up. Let me just back up to that previous point you were making, because I think that's really important. We need to unpack a little bit,
All right.
because this is maybe the conundrum right now for small businesses. Especially when we're talking about marketing. Is, okay, I know there's all these channels out there. There's all these ways to reach people. I'm a small business. I can't be everywhere all at once. I'm not, all seeing and all powerful, right? And so I have to pick and choose my battles while understanding that I need to be doing more, over time. And so when we talk about content marketing, and when I read Content Inc., I don't know when that came out, maybe a decade ago.
I don't know, but I do still have your copy of that,
You
by the way.
you didn't give that back to me. But, point being is that, Joseph Polizzi, who wrote that book, one of his main fundamental points in there was you've got to start with one channel, build one audience, and then go to the next. And I still think that that's true. I just don't know if we can afford to be that deliberate, and to really build our audience, solely on one channel before we go to another one. And it's an interesting debate, and there could be great, points made, I think, on either side of it. But to the point I was making before on the where the customer is at, is that the customer is expecting you to be on these platforms. And more to the point, if your competitor is on all these platforms and making it easier for the customer to give them money through text message and email and social and website and a mobile app, and you get the idea, you're eventually going to lose that battle unless your offer is just so much sexier than theirs, because you just must have, your product is buying far and away better than them, and you have a competitive price then. That's the only way you're going to win that battle, because market voice does lead to market share. And this has been a challenge for small businesses, even going back to the traditional media days. Forget about digital media before, is that this was the biggest battle for small businesses in 1988, is that they have a limited marketing budget. And the main mistake that I would see them make, not that I was doing it in 1988, but, back before the internet here, what we would see is they would spend $500 here, $500 here, $500 here, $500 here. They get the door hangers, they got the ad in the newspaper, they got the ad in the little newsletter, from the grocery store, they got the ad on TV, et cetera, et cetera. And at the end, they didn't know what worked, what didn't work, and they were out of money. And it's a little bit of give and take, right? You have to have a comprehensive strategy of, hey, I know I need to be on more than one channel, but like you were saying, Miles, you can't spread yourself too thin. And that is really, really easy to do as a small business. And then you dilute your efforts, and nothing worked and you don't know why, essentially what happens. And so that is what I really think, that everybody needs to wrestle with as they go into 2022. Is I know I need to do more, I know I need to be more places. I know I need to engage with my audience in different places than I am right now, but I can't bite off more than I can chew. I can't do it all at once. So I need to pick my battles, and I need to have a strategy of how I'm going to attack that. And that's actually, when we do a 7-step marketing plan for a client, that's one of the steps that we do, is we reverse engineer, okay, who's your target audience? Which channels are you going to have the best bet of reaching them? And then let's pick our battles, right? Let's go after the ones that we think are going to have the best ROI first, and then move out from there. But a lot of people, they may hear part of what we were saying. Hey, you got to be everywhere, Omni Channel, and they forget the strategy part, and they just go out and start spending money and spraying and praying, right? And that's not going to work for them either. So I'm really glad that you broke that down because it's super important.
Yeah, I'll add a caveat to our word of caution here, and that is you said pick your battles, but also if you see a good opportunity out there, take it. There are tools out there that are completely automatic. They don't take any extra work. If you spend 2 minutes to begin with and set it up, it will end up working for you over the course of the next year. I'm thinking you're saying Omni Channel here, and this is one we just set up for a client, an e-commerce setup where they're using our e-commerce solution, which automatically can connect to other marketplaces. So you can set your product up there and you can sell it on your own website, but every update that you make and every product that you have up there is automatically connected to Facebook and to Instagram, and it can be set up on Etsy and Amazon and Google Shopping, and it automatically puts all that out there, and then people can buy your product from any of those marketplaces. You're automatically injecting yourself into an established marketplace with zero extra effort, just because you're using the right tool. You're doing something that's doing work for you. So yeah, we want to have that word of caution out there. Make sure that you're not just jumping out and trying to do everything all at once and doing it all poorly. But if you do see a good opportunity, or if you see something that's going to make you more effective and you can make that investment, you can put in a little bit of extra work now and then have this tool automatically work for you for the next year, please do it. Jump on that one and be watching out for those things, because relating back to my first point on automation, those tools are becoming more accessible and much higher quality, more affordable, and there's more of them out there. So chances are here in the next year or so, when you're working on this, you're going to run across a couple of those. And if you find one that works within your strategy, you better take it up.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we're good on that one here, but I think maybe a good transition to my next point here. The high level point is just video. I know, Mike, you've been stressing that. You were stressing that last year, and it turns out you were totally right. 2021 was a big year for video. Search engines started prioritizing it a lot in organic searches. So optimizing your video for search has become a big deal. I actually wrote an article on that. I don't know if it's on the site yet. If it's not, it will be shortly. New social platforms are prioritizing video. So, of course, we talked about TikTok being the new big one, and that's all about short video. Instagram responded with Reels. You've got YouTube's Shorts coming up here. I mentioned Rumble earlier as becoming an actual competitor to YouTube, and that's, of course, all video. 2021 in the digital landscape, anyway, I think really was the era of video. It's partially due to the new social account, or the new social platforms that we were talking about, and the sort of advents that have happened around that. Partially due to search, and then there's just been a lot of great marketing that's went out on video. You've got user-generated content. You've got all of these different shorts coming out there. Like I said, on Instagram Reels has become a really powerful marketing tool. So just across the board, video has been a major player. So if you were doing video and you were doing it well this last year, chances are that worked pretty well for you.
Yeah, 100%, Miles. I'll just double down, I guess, on what I said last year, is that I think every business, no matter how small you are, you need to have a video strategy. You need to have somebody on your team that is, able to take video, or you need to hire that out and make that part of your marketing budget. That, we're going to hire professionals to come in and shoot X amount of videos this year, to have that content for all the channels, that you're on. It is very, very important, and the audience is expecting it, at this point. And so the other thing, Miles, just going back to the idea that, how are we going to do all this, right? As a small business, video can be a great way to work smarter, not harder, and to have those just the central hub of your content that you can create then spokes out from. So I'll give you an example. Like, we do this show on Facebook or Instagram, and then we take the audio and we put that out as a podcast. and then maybe we'll edit down some clips of Miles saying something brilliant for 30 seconds, and we'll put that out on our LinkedIn, in different social channels. Maybe one of the discussions will spawn an article that we'll write, and that'll become an article or a blog for the website, which helps SEO and all these other things. So it can be a great way for you to do more with less when you have a consistent video strategy. So that's the other thing to think about here as well is, how are we going to do this with just a small team? And so having a video strategy is a really important part of that, where you can actually create one piece of content and then strip it down to other pieces. But Miles, this actually ties into my next trend that I was going to bring up. So I'm just going to do a transition here. And that is, the changes on iOS, the changes basically of the whole cookie system in advertising. This was certainly probably, the biggest thing that happened in 2021 from the advertising perspective. And what we said at the beginning of the year was, hey, this is coming down the pipe. This is going to make things more expensive. It's going to be harder for us to track people that are engaging with content or remarket them, to move them down the funnel. And that was one of the reasons why we pushed video so hard. And that turned out to be true. And it's going to be, I think, continue to be true certainly into at least next year. And that is, video is a way that we can retarget people without cookies, without basically being able to track them like we used to be able to do pre the iOS update. And we've talked about this story, throughout the year, but I literally think it is the story of the year in advertising. And video is a key part of this, of how you can leverage that in order to keep your ad campaigns being successful and generating a lot of ROI and moving people down through the funnel. So, that is certainly something that, people need to be looking at, like I said, as part of your budget. How much money am I setting aside to produce video with? TikTok, which, we talked about before, has certainly been a big driver in this. Reels, Reels is, in my mind, the number one way that you're going to be able to get new eyeballs on your stuff on Instagram. And so it's super important. And then it's obviously become a massive trend with the whole TikTok craze. So it's not going away.
Speaking of which, check our Reels. We got some really awesome ones back there. I guess I'll just add on to the video conversation of just another actionable tip here. I've said this on the show before, but I think it's probably worth repeating. For those of you that are maybe a little bit less comfortable making content or being on video or even making your own videos or anything, it can kind of stall people and paralyze them, keep them from ever making anything, because they know it's not going to be great, or it's not going to be quite right. It's not going to be up to their standards, and so they just don't end up making anything.
Sure.
So I'll just throw out that one. I don't know. Here's the advice of: it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be studio quality. It's probably going to suck the first couple of times. Just jump out there and do it. Start creating something, and you may be surprised that people are interested in that kind of content. It doesn't have to be fully produced. It can be pretty organic. It can be pretty rough. There can be but, like, and ums in there, all sorts of fillers and word whiskers, and you can make a mistake and drop your phone halfway through the video, and it still works pretty well. So try not to hold yourself to too high of a standard there. At least at the very beginning, when you're just starting, you're just trying to put something out there. Take that first step. There's really no easy way to do it. If your business does have the budget to have someone come in and do a couple of professional videos, then by all means do that. You can reuse those, talk with them, make sure that the content that you're creating is evergreen. It's not dated. I know we were talking to a client a little while ago about doing some photo and video, but they had all their Christmas stuff up, and so that would mean that they wouldn't be able to use this content again in the spring. So if we waited a little bit, just a couple of weeks down the line, and then did all that production work, then they could use that throughout the year and it'd be much more usable for them. So just be smart about it. If you can get someone in and just make one really dynamite piece of content and then use that over and over throughout the year, then go ahead and do that. But if you don't have that and you're stuck in the DIY side of things, then take the plunge, make something happen out there, and just post it and see. You may be surprised.
Yeah, and along those lines, Miles, don't be afraid to use live. I mean, live is
Yeah.
the best weapon that we have in the video space because the algorithms love it. No matter what channel that we're talking about, and I think that that's a lot of the reason why people don't do live. Is they're it's afraid of messing up. But the thing is, Miles, is that's your audience actually appreciates you being authentic. That's what they want to see, and that resonates more with them. And that was one of the key things actually we said for this year that people needed to incorporate into their advertising and marketing is authenticity. Because if we got on here and we just had canned, scripted, type of stuff that you would see in a cable commercial or something like that, people see right through that, and that's not what they want. They want actual value, and so they're willing to trade that for the ums and the stumbles and the okay, maybe you didn't know what you were talking about when somebody asked you that question, which is the risk that I guess you take when you go live. But that is, in my mind, it's much, much better content than the rehearsed canned scripted crap that nobody believes anyways. And it certainly doesn't connect like, being authentic does. So don't be afraid of yourself.
Absolutely. So I think that's going to be the number one tip for, if you're just getting started here and you're wanting to start making some content, just take whatever it is that you're good at, leverage your strengths there and start putting something out. And then as you get going, as you start to produce more, you'll naturally get better at it and figure out what works. But that first one, it's not going to be perfect, and you can't let that stop you from creating anything. I did want to kind of spin back a little bit to a point you started to make there, and that is all of the privacy updates. I did have that on my list as well. It's obviously a major update from the advertising viewpoint here for 2021, where they completely rocked our world as far as what information we have access to. Several major companies, Apple's kind of the big one, the headline here, but several companies made major updates to their privacy policies and how they're handling user information. So they're not saving it, they're not giving it to advertisers. So from the private point of view, that means that your information is more secure, it's more owned by you, and you have to opt into sharing it rather than by default sharing it, and then you have to opt out. From the advertising point of view and the business point of view for any business owners out there, that just means that we have less information readily at our disposal about anyone and everyone at any given time. We've talked about this a couple of times on the show, and Mike, you were just saying like it was just easy before. We had tons of information out there. We just had to pick and choose what we wanted, target this group over here, serve them an ad, easy. Now we have to be a little bit smarter about it because it's not quite as readily available. And we have to really focus on collecting that zero and first party data. That would be direct contact information, getting someone to join your group or join your email list or get their email or phone number or something like that, so that you can remarket to them and you can target them for future marketing efforts. I think it's really going to shift a lot of the ways that agencies work. You're going to see, or you have seen, and you're going to continue to see prices go up for those kinds of services if you're working with anyone. So I think that's definitely one of the biggest changes that's happened in 2021, and I don't think that trend's going anywhere in 2022. On a personal level, I'm happy. That means I think that's a good direction. That means all these big companies aren't selling our data quite as much, or maybe we have a little bit more control over our online privacy. But as an advertiser, it does mean that we have to work a little bit smarter. Can you talk a little bit more specifically about the challenges there and what we're going to do with that moving forward?
Yeah, so I think you outlined it really well, Miles. There's just a couple things I'll add. In the conversation that I've been having, specifically with clients, is what you just said, but also on the side of conversions, and it's not just the privacy updates too. There's that happening, but there's also this macro play, happening with the bigger companies are just spending so much more than they ever once were on digital ads.
Right.
The Fortune 500s of the world that's now their go-to in the advertising budget are, Facebook ads or, whatever platform that was not the case, 3, 4, 5 years ago. Right. And we were always warning that, hey, this day is going to come where the smaller businesses are just going to get priced out basically, in these really, really competitive industries. And that's certainly what we started to see in some respects. And so, so we have to, and again, I'm speaking in very, very general terms. This is going to vary by industry, but by and large, it's getting more expensive to get conversions on digital ads. And so what that means is we have to convert better, and we have to make sure, that our marketing bridge is tighter, that we're turning that into a long-term customer, that we're increasing the lifetime value of that customer when we do get a conversion, and that we are really taking care of the leads and nurturing the leads maybe in a way that we weren't before, when it was this frothy environment of, man, I can get leads for 13 cents a piece,
But now we've got them and we can't afford to lose them anywhere along the way.
A piece, like you need to be a little bit more careful with how you're handling those leads that are coming in. And so, that's certainly something that we've seen over the past 12, 24 months, Miles, that, I don't think it's going to slow down, unfortunately, but then the other side of it is that conversation we were having earlier about new platforms, as there's this, evolution that keeps happening where, okay, Facebook, maybe my cost of my leads doubled there, but I can go to a smaller platform, which the big boys and gals aren't on yet. There's still plenty of an audience for me, and I can find an arbitrage there where I can get better ROI like I was on Facebook 3 or 5 years ago. And so it's a little bit maybe of a pivot that you have to make as well. But I think the main key factor for a small business is tightening my marketing bridge, meaning that all the touch points that the customer has along that journey have got to be good. We can't send somebody into the restaurant and they sit there without the waiter giving them water for 5 minutes. That's not going to work anymore. Right? It's like because the cost of acquisition of that customer is going up. And so we have to do a much better job of retaining that customer and turning them into a lifetime part of our revenue. So
that's why when we're working with our clients, we do focus on that overarching strategy. I mean, we are a digital marketing agency, and that's primarily what we're doing here. But we're not just sitting back and making Google ads or something, because that's not going to work in the modern age. We've got to work with you to build out that entire strategy, the entire marketing funnel. You mentioned our 7-step plan that we put together with people. But that includes everything from customer service to how are you answering the phones to where are we delivering these leads once we do it, how are we doing that, how are we tracking all of that, and making sure that if something does fall through the cracks, if something does get missed somewhere along the way, we at least know about it and can correct.
Right.
I think overall here we've got to work smarter, and everything that we're doing has to be part of some sort of larger cohesive strategy that goes from this person has no idea who I am all the way to they're buying and they're becoming a regular customer.
Yeah. It's really all about understanding that customer journey and making sure that every step along the way that you're doing just as good as your competitor, if not better. Because if not, you're going to lose that customer for sure. And like we said, it's going to cost more to get them in the door or to the website or whatever we're trying to do. So in my mind, retention is so much more important than it ever once was, Miles.
Well, just to recap here, we are going over 2021. We're coming to the end of the year here. So we just wanted to go over some of the biggest trends, the things that we'd seen this last year. And I think maybe next week we'll do our year-long predictions. We'll talk about the future. But right now we're just talking about this past year, big changes that we've seen, major developments in the digital world. So if you have any questions on any of it, please throw it in the comments here, or you can email us to askwildman@wildmanweb.com. And we'll either just address it there or use it as our subject matter for next week's show. So far we've hit AI and programmatic digital, a bunch of new social media platforms and developments on the existing platforms, video, live video, content creation, and some shifts in the digital advertising world, increasing costs and making us have to be a little bit smarter about everything.
Yeah.
Do you have any other major trends or big developments here in 2021 you wanted to talk about?
I do. I got one more, and I've
All
been saving my favorite for last. But Miles, I just wanted to touch one more point there on that last discussion that we were having. I think that a lot of people don't understand how much the marketing bridge and the sales process affects and influences the marketing process. Marketing is basically worthless if it doesn't translate to sales. And not to toot our own horn, but I think that is something that separates us a little bit more, because when we do marketing for somebody, we don't care about clicks. We don't care about, how many impressions did you get and all this stuff. It's what happened on the bottom line, what happened with the sales, and if it's not going the right way, how do we unpack that and how do we fix it? Because a lot of times it's a holistic approach, and it's not just as simple as changing your Facebook copy. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Okay, so you could get me on a soapbox about that, Miles, but I'm going to restrain myself. All right.
Yeah, well, even people out there that are not working with us here, obviously we want to do that with businesses we're working with, but that's something that you should be doing on your own as well. Look at everything from the very beginning to the very end, and don't forget to look at how quickly is the waiter getting to the table? Are you missing calls at the front desk? All these little things that are going to end up losing you money, no matter how awesome your advertising is or how awesome your messaging is. If you're losing leads there at the very end.
Yep. See it every day.
Yeah.
Marketing bridge. All right. And customer journey. Like I said, it's about understanding that customer journey. Okay. The last thing I wanted to talk about, Miles, my favorite trend, I think, for 2021 was voice. And the acceleration of voice, both in terms of the tech, which maybe you can speak to, and but also just in popular culture, and in the way, what I mean by that is the way that people are actually using it. And I this goes back to kind of like the AI and the VR, discussions that we have, and these things. It's like the technology is out there and has been out there for a long time, but the practicality of the user actually using it and it being accepted in popular culture is not out there yet.
Right. And you get something like Google Glass or something, or they release this thing. It's the super high-tech sci-fi tool of glasses, and you get this augmented reality thing, and they were hyping it up, and then they put it out there, and no one used it because it looked dumb. And that was it. The tech was great, but it
just really didn't have a practical purpose in our everyday life yet. Yeah. Now, I think at some point it will. And that's, to me, kind of what happened with voice over the past years, that, it's been out there forever. We've had like Siri on our cell phones and stuff, for gosh knows how long, probably a decade now. Pretty much everybody has some sort of, home device. But I don't think that it was all really coming together and working until, the past 12, 15 months or so. So I do think Clubhouse was a big part of that. And certainly I was hot on Clubhouse at the beginning of the year, Miles, as you know, and anybody who watched this show. If you guys don't know what Clubhouse is, check it out. It's an audio-only app where people engage with each other all across the world in various topics in real time, 24 hours a day, only using their voice. And it's really, really unique social trend that, influenced Facebook or Meta, the biggest social media giant out there, as they adopted audio rooms on their platform. Twitter's working on aspects of it as well. And so, certainly I think in the first half of the year, it was one of the biggest trends in marketing and in tech in general. And then, there's more practical applications of it as well. We did a couple shows, I think, about this, Miles, in the summertime, about voice branding and selling and search and, all the different technological advances that had happened there. But more to the point, the actual real world implications that we were starting to see, where people were actually saying, hey, Alexa, where should I order a pizza? Where should I get my tires? And making purchasing decisions only interacting through voice. And I think that that's a trend that we're certainly going to continue to see. I don't think it's going to, overtake video or overtake manual search yet, but I can certainly see that in the future because it's more convenient, it saves time, et cetera, et cetera. And then on the branding side of things, we did a whole show about sonic branding and how music influences people and how people remember the sound of words, and if somebody's voice is one that they've heard more and more, that they actually believe it more. And there's all these psychological effects on the marketing side of things of why voice branding and sonic branding are super important. But to me, that's a trend that, like I said, just really hit its peak this year, and I think is something that everybody needs to latch on to moving forward.
And something that people need to latch on to, and also this is another one where there's so many different ways to do it, to capitalize on this, audio digital marketing. So that can be just something as simple as putting out a podcast, or, you said sonic branding, and that makes me think of a good jingle or something like that. There is an audio side of things if you are putting out ads, or if you're doing any kind of marketing, if you can kind of stamp it with that, that kind of strategy is kind of coming back into popularity, and done well, it works. I mean, I've got jingles stuck in my head from 20 years ago, and they're still there. That business may not even be a thing anymore, but that jingle's still there. And then, search, I think, is going to be big. I do a lot of our SEO campaigns here, and search, or voice search, has changed how we actually look at search queries. There's because people are doing it in full sentences, like they're just talking about it. And this is actually a return to an old way of doing things, because when search engines just started off, people would type in full sentences, full questions. They would say, dear computer, where do I find this? Sincerely, Grandma. And when we were optimizing websites or products or videos or whatever for those things, we were looking at these full sentences. And then people learned how to actually use search engines, and they're just throwing in keywords. Best pizza, Florence. Search that. Right. And now it's kind of returning back, where we're getting these vocal inputs in full text format. Search engines have actually altered their algorithms, in part due to that kind of trend, but in part just to figure out, I forget what they're calling it, search intent, I think, was the word there, where they're trying to figure out, what did you actually mean here? What is your goal? And so they're using their technology to actually read into this a little bit more, past the surface level, past just the keywords, and try to figure out what it is you are actually looking for to determine your intent on the search. And so all of this has completely shifted the SEO field for us. But I agree with you. I think search has gotten to the point where it's more normal. People are using it more and more. You have the voice assistants on computers and on phones. You've got the home assistants, Google Home and Alexa and things like that. You've got it coming into TVs. I'm seeing that all the time now too, which is kind of crazy to me, but hooking that all up. And so you see something on TV and you just say, hey, I want to buy that. And then it shows up at your door the next day. It's just so convenient. It's so integrated with everything else. I think that the more that gets normalized, the more people see that, the more that's going to grow. And we've got to grow and change with that, and make sure that we are leveraging this whole audio side of things. We say video is great there, but we can't neglect the audio either.
Right, and it's an and, not an or, of course. And the elephant in the room that you mentioned there is podcasting.
Yeah.
I mean, podcasting is still a huge phenomenon. It took a little bit of a backseat at the height of the pandemic when people weren't commuting as much, because it's a long form. Most of them are long form, and so that's where a lot of podcasting was getting done, or podcast listening was getting done. But it is still a huge expanding opportunity, and something that is very easy, or I would say relatively easy, for a small business to accomplish. Going back to that idea of, hey, we have all these different channels, we need to create content for it. How can we do this efficiently and still run the business? I'm a huge believer in podcasting, because I don't need a camera. I don't need to worry about how I look. I just need to know what I'm talking about, turn on a microphone, talk about it, record it, and put it out. It's very, very, very simple. And so that is something I would encourage everybody to look at. What can I do in 2022 for a audio strategy? Is it utilizing something like a podcast? Is it getting voice search? What is it that I can do to advance my voice opportunities for my audience?
Agreed. So I think that was a really nice one to kind of end things on. We're coming up on an hour here. This is our 2021 year in review, digital marketing trends and big developments. Hit everything from audio to video to new social platforms and artificial intelligence. I think next week we will be talking a little bit more about future predictions, 2022, what you need to be doing to prepare for the new year here, and where we see things going. So if you have any questions on that, or you have some input maybe, please email us at askwildman@wildmanweb.com. You can DM us here. Visit our website at wildmanweb.com. We've got this show up there. We've got tons of articles that we write on everything, tons of resources, including some free software downloads to help you actually take what we're talking about here and put it to good use. So check all that out, and we will see you next week. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah. Thank you, Miles. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, everybody.
All right.